Hello everyone. Before going into the details of data analysis, we need to understand about the nature of the data. Nature of the data we can understand in the perspective of programming language such as high level language Python here. So let's first see and check what are the data structures in Python programming language. Data structures in Python are classified into two classes, primitive data structures and non-primitive data structures. We need to understand what are the definition of these classes. So primitive data structures are the most basic type of data structure that stores single values, and how to save those values are actually done by the non-primitive data structure, which are actually more complex and can hold multiple values in them. So let me share a simple example with you guys to understand more about primitive data structure and non-primitive data structure using Python programming language. Here you guys can see this is a student class and which can be represented as a class or entity. And now I would like to store some information about student data. And this information can also be called as properties, attributes, and characteristic of student class. We have some of the examples here. Let's say I would like to store or save student ID in the form of alphanumeric ways or maybe in numeric data. I would like to save the full name of the student, such as we will consider the first name and the last name of the student. I would like to store what is the gender of the student, such as male or female. Maybe I would like to store the data in 0 or 1 value, or maybe in true or false. Maybe if someone is male or false for if a person is not a male. I would like to store the age of the student, date of birth of the student, address of the student, contact number, email address, and program of study. And definitely we can consider more properties and attributes of this student class for storing and creating this class or entity. Now I can create multiple instances from this student class or multiple objects from this student class. Let's say I can generate or instantiate multiple student objects from this student class, such as student A, student B, student C. That's why we say that a class is a blueprint for creating objects. So a blueprint of a student class can be generated by the form of a student A object, student B object, and student C object. Each of them will have their own record for the following attributes, properties, or characteristics. So student A has its own record, student B has its own record, and student C has its own record. Now, as in the earlier slide, I have shared with you the definition of primitive and non-primitive. So what will be the primitive data type here? And what will be the non-primitive data type here? So you guys can see here the primitive data types here are the string value, let's say full name or gender, and maybe address I would like to store in the string data type. And let's say if I talk about integer data type, then age is an integer value. Maybe the contact number can also be stored in an integer value. Date of birth has its own data type, date, in Python library. And maybe I would like to store gender in Boolean values such as true or false. So these are the examples of primitive data types here. And non-primitive data type data structure here, like how to store this data in the memory. So I would like to store this data of a student in the dictionary data structure. We will talk about in detail what are the dictionary data structures in Python, but for time being, I would like to share that dictionary will give you the opportunity to store heterogeneous data type in the memory belonging from the single class, such as here in the student class. Thank you for this example, and then we will talk about more on the details of the linear, non-linear, and further data structures.